Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm alongside Jason Perry from the Hinckley Institute. It's nice to be able to ask you questions for once instead of having you ask me questions. And by the way, I think you need to get that Scortis guy on your program a little more often. We hear good reviews of him.
Well, everyone loves you. I've loved it when you've been on the Hinckley Report, but apparently you've got this new gig every day.
I know, every morning, right? Yeah. Oh, well, and you tape in the morning.
Yes, that's true. Maybe we'll change that up just to get you.
I have to tell our listeners my Jason Perry story because I asked you when you started practicing law, and it was about 1999. I remember meeting you in the early days, and you were working at the time at the Attorney General's office.
That's right.
And I thought, this guy is going to be on the Supreme Court someday. This guy is impressive and so polished and so good. And I'm sure you could have been, but just pivoting as you did to the Hinckley Institute and what you did over there, it surprised some of us. But I also think it was looking back, it was a perfect fit for you.
Well, I have loved it. I have to tell you that. I mean, it's one of those jobs where I get to be involved in a lot, but like the great opportunities for these students, like these kids are so excited and optimistic about life. I try to make sure it works.
Yeah, it's fun. I love watching your show. I also love talking to Brian King, the new Democratic Party chair. Brian, thanks for joining us this morning. We want to talk to you about a couple of things, not the least of which is your call for Democrats to, what you're saying, come home. And Jason and I were talking about the reasons for that, but maybe you can state the reason for that.
Yeah, well, it kind of makes sense that if you're going to set up an organization and ask people to be a part of it, that you want people to affiliate with it, that you want people to sign up to be a part of your organization. And one of the things that Democrats have gotten in the habit of doing, some Democrats, not most, but some Democrats have said, I vote Democratic and I am a Democrat, but I think that the best way to have my voice heard and have an impact in Utah politics is to register as a Republican and try and soften the rough edges of that party from within. A lot of people call these folks rhinos, Republicans in name only, and to some extent that's accurate. But the problem with that is, number one, this party, the Republican Party, has become so tied to one person and one person's agenda that it doesn't matter who you vote for within the Republican Party. You're going to get someone who is a supporter of Donald Trump, and there may be varying degrees of support, but the reality is that, the Republican Party today is pretty much aligned with that one person and his personality. Doesn't have to do much with principles, doesn't have to do much with policy issues. It's just, are you loyal to Donald Trump? So, we've failed, in other words, to knock off the rough edges of today's Republican Party, number one. But number two, and more important in many respects, it weakens the Democratic Party to have people who consider themselves Democrats and vote Democratic leave the party for purposes of us within the party being able to know who they are and to organize them and to educate them and to inform them about certain things that are happening within the party. So it's basically a call to strengthen the party and come home and call yourself a Democrat and recognize that this is a two-party system, like it or not, for better or worse in this country and in this state. We need to gather around the party that is in favor of the Constitution, the rule of law today.
If I can just ask you a question, Brian, and by the way, Brian was just on the Hinckley Report this past week, was excellent, also talking about a couple of these issues. But I'm kind of curious, kind of this idea, you had a certain name. Sometimes in the past, some people call them the party raiders, people who are, were always Democrats, but were getting involved in registering as Republicans to impact the primaries in particular. But the idea, and this are even people who are in your position in the past that talked about this, where that was how they would influence who the candidates actually are. Have circumstances changed a little bit there, where the power really is in coming back, affiliate with the party that you identify with, instead of some who felt compelled to register as a Republican to have influence on the Republican side? Tell us what you're doing as the chair to say coming home is actually the safest and best political move.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason. You're right. And part of the thing that has happened, as we all know, is that there has been this polarization taking place. I don't really like it in many respects. I mean, to become polarized is really damaging to us as a society at large. But here's the reality. We've got one party and the leadership of one party who insists on doing that polarizing. And they're very effective at it and very good. And once you have people on one side really saying we insist on polarizing, and they gain the benefits of polarizing by having people sort of rally to their team, Team Red in this case, you have to deal with that reality. You have to address it. And the best way of addressing it is to have a valid and a comparable counterweight. And the counterweight, again, like it or not, we have a two-party system in this state and in this country. And the only valid counterweight, the best counterweight that we can come up with to the MAGA movement right now is a strong Democratic Party, a party that stands up and says, we believe in our civil liberties, we believe in our civil rights, we believe in the rights of states and cities to tell the federal government, hey, don't come invade our city. Don't come and unwanted and unwarranted come in with your masked police and try to take our people off the streets, that kind of thing. So, I mean, there are a lot of things we could talk about that Democrats believe in and that Republicans are values, Utah values that the Republicans are betraying right now. But to put it, I mean, to cut to the chase, to answer your question, Jason, if you're going to have a strong MAGA party that is really polarized around Donald Trump, you've got to have a strong counterweight in the form of a strong Democratic Party. And that means people have to come home.
Brian, can you talk to us a little bit about what's happening at the legislature right now? They had a committee meeting this morning at 8. They proposed and voted, not unanimously, but along party lines, to propose a certain map. They're calling it Map C. The special session of the legislature is meeting now. It's almost certain that they're going to pass that. Can you tell us what your thoughts are about the current situation and take us back a little bit to Prop 4 and whether or not we're really following what the citizens wanted?
Right. Prop 4 was the initiative back in 2018 where people said, listen, we want fair maps. We don't want politicians picking their voters. We, the voters, want to be able to pick the people that represent us. And we set up the Independent Redistricting Commission, which was going to be effective if it had been followed by the legislature in drawing fair maps that weren't gerrymandered, that allowed voters to pick their elected officials. The legislature back in 2001, when they did redistricting, basically took the independent redistricting maps and threw them in the garbage can. And we've seen now the Utah Supreme Court and Judge Gibson, the district court judge, say, hey, legislature, you can't do that. So today, the legislature recommended out of committee Map C, which the Republican Party has made very clear is their preferred map. The Republican Party has taken a very partisan approach to this and encouraged the members of their party to vote, contact their legislators and tell them to vote for Map C. Here's my grievance about that, and this came up last week, and I, told my colleague on the other side of the aisle, the party chair of the Republican Party, hey, what are you doing? Don't do that. What we need to do, again, it gets back to this polarization issue. Polarization isn't in anybody's interest. What we really need are fair maps that reflect the will of the people of the state of Utah and reflect good redistricting principles. The Democratic Party has not taken a position on what map should be forwarded. What we have said to the people of the state of Utah is, let your voice be known. Tell your legislator what map you prefer and ask them to pick a map that fairly reflects the principles of redistricting and the will of the people of the state of Utah. I'm sad. I wish that the Republican Party in the state had done the same thing, but they didn't. They came along and said, make sure that you vote. Tell your legislator to vote for Map C because that's the one that helps Republicans the most.
In just a couple of seconds here, Brian. So what's next? If Map C is it that comes out,
well,
what's
I think
next?
they have to take the vote as a body of the House and the Senate later today. I think given the committee vote, I think that's much more likely than not that Map C is going to come out. But we'll see what they vote. And if it is Map C, it goes back to Judge Gibson. She'll have to take a look at whether Map C complies with the principles that she outlined in her ruling in August as to what the legislature needed to do to come up with a map that complied with Prop D, the initiative back in 2018. And she'll either accept Map C or she'll say, no, it doesn't qualify. It doesn't meet the standards that I indicated you have to meet. So we'll see some rulings on this within the next week or two, I'm confident.
Thanks, Brian. That was Brian King, Utah Democratic Party chair. When we come back after the break, a federal judge blocked an order from the Trump administration deploying troops to the city of Portland, and President Trump is not happy. We'll talk about what's next when we come back.